Welcome to this week's episode of Taiwan Tech Update, your weekly roundup of tech news stories from here in Taiwan, presented by me, Tomasz Koper, and Radio Taiwan International. You may have noticed that Poland has been in the Taiwanese news cycle a lot recently, and since it appears in relation to cooperation in technology, I've also featured it frequently on this show. That's why this week I spoke to Agnieszka Sygitowicz, the president of the Polish-Taiwanese Chamber of Industry and Commerce, about this recent uptick in technology and industrial exchanges. Stick around to the second part of the show for that. But first, we begin with a roundup of Taiwan-related tech news for the week of June 27th to July 3rd. The PAX Silica Summit was held in Washington, D.C. just before last weekend. On Saturday, the Foreign Ministry released a press statement saying Taiwan will continue working with the U.S. and other key partners to build secure and resilient high-tech supply chains, strengthen the global influence of Taiwanese industries, and expand Taiwan's international space as a result. Now, Taiwan is not a signatory of the US-led PAX Silica initiative, but was represented at the meeting by Deputy Digital Minister Isabel Ho, as well as representatives from the International Cooperation and Development Fund and the Industrial Technology Research Institute. As you may know, PAX Silica aims to bring together trusted supply chain partners in critical high-tech industries like semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and rare earths, so not having Taiwan in the mix would, in my opinion, render the entire event a bit pointless. The LY Corporation, the Japanese company behind Taiwan's most popular communication app, held its annual technology conference, TechVerse 2026, on Monday. The company's CTO, Ewan Park, said at the event that AI is evolving at a remarkable pace, but currently only 16% of people regularly use it in their daily lives, which apparently is a problem for some reason. That's why the company introduced a new AI agent brand, Agent I, which will offer features like intuitive search or automatically creating events and syncing them to users' calendars when it detects dates mentioned in a conversation. There will also be a business-facing version of the agent called Agent I for Biz, which will offer operational and data analytics capabilities to its more than 100 million official accounts. Okay, here's my 2 cents. Many people around the world are getting fed up with unwanted AI features in their apps and on the platforms they use. We see it on social media, and now it's coming to more and more communicators. Line has already rolled out automation features like calendar integration, which resulted in every mention of a day of the week automatically turning into a hyperlink for easy integration with Line's internal calendar. Around 22 million people use Line in Taiwan, a country of 23 million, and I don't know how many use Line as a calendar app, but from what I've seen on forums, many users strongly dislike the feature, especially since the company did not make it opt-in, but rather enabled it by default. I suspect AI integration will be rolled out in a similar way, and I don't expect Taiwanese users to like it any more than the calendar integration. 16% AI adoption rate is not a problem. Stop forcing AI systems on users, especially if you're going to turn around and sell whatever data you harvest from users this way to businesses. Let users engage with the technology on their own terms and in their own time. Make features opt-in rather than opt-out or even mandatory. Otherwise, the AI fatigue and backlash will only grow. On Tuesday, Taiwan's legislature introduced a regulatory framework for Taiwanese cryptocurrency businesses, which includes licensing for virtual asset service providers and issuers of stablecoins, as well as punishments for fraud and market manipulation. New service providers will need to get a license from the Financial Supervisory Commission, while existing ones will have 12 months to apply for one once the law takes effect. Stablecoin issuers, on the other hand, will have to keep a full reserve in a fiat currency, which will be held in trust by local financial institutions. These are great developments both for people who like to gamble on funny money and the rest of us, because they will limit market manipulation and the so common in the cryptocurrency world, scams. Also on Tuesday, the electronics contract manufacturer Kinpo Electronics announced it's collaborating with a quantum computer company, CQC, to develop a qubit control system that would simplify connection design and reduce costs. The system will encompass hardware, software, and services to fit in with different requirements of different technological approaches. The first version of the system is expected to enter testing in the second half of the year, while the entire testing period will take between 1 to 3 years. The Kinpo Group General Manager, Chen Weicheng, said that future quantum computers will not operate as standalone systems, but rather will be integrated with current AI servers to form a hybrid operating model. The AI will handle task allocation, while quantum computers will process high-speed computational workloads. The company's CTO, Li Shanghong, said that the control logic within the system will be similar regardless of which approach, superconducting or ion trap, comes to dominate the field. Stay tuned to future episodes for a deeper dive into quantum computing, which I'm still working on because there's a lot to take in and understand. And staying with Tuesday, the Taiwan Space Agency, TASA, announced that they updated their wind speed data processing system, which includes the Triton weather satellite, the first domestically developed device of its kind. It was launched in late 2023 and carried a global navigation satellite system reflectometry, or GNSS-R receiver, allowing it to measure sea surface wind speeds by receiving signals from navigation satellites bounced off the ocean surface. TASA said the upgrade involves ground station expansion and data processing optimization. The agency has plans to integrate the radio occultation (RO) technology used on Formosat 3 and Formosat 7 satellites with the reflectometry (R) technology used on Triton into a combined ROR instrument, which will be included as a secondary mission payload on future satellite programs. This will provide more data on temperatures, humidity, pressure, and wind speed, which in turn will strengthen weather forecasting, extreme weather monitoring, and ocean research. On Wednesday, U.S. President Donald Trump said that Taiwan will double the scale of semiconductor fabs under construction in Arizona, a move he says would help raise the United States' global chip market share to 50% before the end of his term. In response, Taiwan's Economic Minister Gong Mingxin said with a completely straight face that any plans by TSMC will be announced by the company. Now, anyone who knows anything about how long semiconductor fabs take to set up, optimize, and start producing acceptable yields will raise an eyebrow or five at the US president's claim of 50% global market share by the end of his term, a deadline 3 years away. Taiwanese companies can indeed move and expand fast, but this, once again, I admire Minister Gong's straight face and composure. On that note, however, we learned on Thursday that the Economic Ministry has approved another $20 billion in investment by TSMC in its wholly owned US subsidiary in Arizona. This sixth batch brings the total amount approved for the company's US business to $44 billion. Just to be clear, this is not a reaction to what President Donald Trump said a day earlier, since the approval process takes a good while. Now, I said a minute ago that Taiwanese companies can move fast, but only TSMC can move this big. Also on Thursday, the American Institute in Taiwan director Raymond Green, effectively the top U.S. diplomat in Taiwan, said at an industry business forum in Taichung that Washington is ready to deepen cooperation with Taipei on drones. He said the war in Ukraine has shown that quote, a military with robust drone production capacity and a culture of technological innovation can punch far above its weight, end quote. He also highlighted Taiwan's world-leading technology and production capabilities and said that Taiwan's drone industry can be for the next generation what semiconductors were for the previous one, an industry where talent, infrastructure, and the whole ecosystem creates a global competitive advantage. Green said that a closer US-Taiwan cooperation will help reduce vulnerabilities to supply chain disruptions and strengthen the collective deterrence posture of the free world. Now, as much as I agree on the technology front, production capacity may be a bit of a sticking point, at least in the short term. More on that in this episode's featured interview in the second part of the show. Between Foxconn making electric cars with Electromobility Poland, the Taiwan Electric and Electronic Manufacturers Association setting up a science and industrial park in Miękina near Wrocław, and Taiwanese drone manufacturers generating a lot of interest at the recent Taiwan Expo in Europe held in Warsaw, there seems to be a budding or maybe even quickly growing tech romance between Taiwan and Poland. So, this week I spoke with Agnieszka Sygitowicz, the president of the Polish-Taiwanese Chamber of Industry and Commerce, about this growing cooperation between Taiwan and Poland in drones and other tech industries. Here's how our conversation went. Drone cooperation with Poland has been in the news cycle in Taiwan pretty regularly in recent months. Why are we seeing this sudden uptick in activity? What conditions are pushing forward this surge of interest in drones on both sides, and why Taiwan?
The question of why Taiwan is now the question that is most often asked by both journalists and also sometimes even business. Well, it's becoming pretty obvious, and the UAV sector, drone sector, is not an exception. Taiwan is the most advanced, technologically most advanced country in the world, at least in terms of hardware. And as we can see from other industries that are developing very, very quickly and in a very advanced way, not only semiconductors, but this is of course the most obvious. Also, drone sector is very well invested and highly invested, also from public money and business side, and especially components industry is developing in Taiwan very, very quickly and with high quality. This is the first reason. Of course, the second one is that Poland would like to diversify the source of components for drones and drones sometimes themselves, and not buying it only from one supplier, which is the biggest one and has the most share of the market for now. And this is also very important, not only because we would like to diversify, but not to be dependent only on one side. And of course, like with any other industry, this cooperation is growing because Taiwan is becoming more and more interested in Poland. And in drone sector, it's again not an exception, from various of reasons, because the components industry in Taiwan is developing pretty fast. So all the companies need market. And also Poland is next to Ukraine, and it's in Europe, which has various of plans of building its resistance from geopolitical, but not only from just the state reasons. So that's another reason for that makes our cooperation closer and closer recently.
On the note of diversification, a lot is being said about non-red supply chains, so ones not involving China, and Taiwan's role in them. But given China's position as a drone powerhouse, Do you think it's feasible to decouple or diversify from such a huge industry? And how strongly is this something that the Polish side is pursuing?
Well, the answer to that question is unknown yet because we are just on the beginning of the way. Also, Taiwan is developing very, very quickly with its drone sector, still being on the beginning of the road. To be perfectly honest, but we know also from the history that this country can run really, really fast in terms of development of technology and the industry itself. So it seems to be very promising. We are all aware the scale of China, and I'm sure that the market share will be significant still. However, diversification is very important, and Poland has a huge hopes concerning Taiwan potential supply chain in the drone and UAV sector generally. And also, I have heard a lot of positive business feedback about the technology and the quality of the products themselves. So it's also something that makes the interest of Polish companies more and more significant.
Speaking of technology, what kind of technology are Polish buyers after when it comes to Taiwanese suppliers? Is it mainly defense systems, as media reports would suggest, or are we also seeing dual use or just civilian use drones in the mix as well?
I think that it's not only the defense. Of course, from if we can see the combined projects like with Ukraine, it's mostly for the defense reason, obviously. However, we in Poland, our drone sector and drone market is focused still, thanks God, on the civilian purposes for surveillance, for agriculture, logistics, delivery, and so on. And this sector is developing pretty quickly. So I think that, well, actually, the defense purposes and more focus on that matter we do have for not a very long time. Since the drone business in Poland is developing like, well, at least pretty quickly and well from 15 years. And the focus for defense, we do have like, well, three max. I think that not more than 3 years already. When we realized that, like every other European country, that this is important matter of building the resilience and also be prepared for any potential or geopolitical matters or conflicts. Anyway, I think that still civilian purposes are much more often used, and this market is bigger than the defense.
How do you think this Taiwan-Poland drone cooperation is going to develop in the future, and do you see any obstacles to that going smoothly?
I think that it will be developing because I can, at least from what I can see from the focus of both countries. In terms of Taiwan, if we can see last 2 years of visits of the drone and UAV companies to Poland, researching market, meeting with business, meeting with organizations, big players, mid players, sometimes just I don't know, potential partners for the business. The numbers are rising very, very quickly. Numbers of people simply and companies, organizations coming back to Poland to important exhibitions like MSPO in Kielce, like drone exhibition in Warsaw, which actually those events and exhibitions that are dedicated to UAV sector, the number of them is highly, highly increasing every year. And the Taiwanese participants number as well. And those who are coming back, I can see their relations with Polish companies are becoming more and more precise and based on the real business. What I can see as an obstacle, for sure, it will be the scale at the beginning, because Taiwan is still on the well, beginning of the development, but I believe truly that this increase will be very, very quick and high. So this obstacle and this risk will be overcome, easy to overcome. Of course, the geopolitical, let's say, relation between the countries in terms of defense might be something that needs to be carefully considered. But in terms of the civilian or dual use, I think that we will successfully develop this relation in upcoming years. And I know from my Taiwanese friends from the drone sector that at least 2027 and maybe upcoming years will be those for them, that Poland will be key point on the map of Europe for visits and for business relations development and their engagement. And if engagement is concerned from Polish side, I can assure you that we have the same. So let's wait for the fruit.
Well, zooming out from drones, there has been an increase in technological cooperation and exchanges between Poland and Taiwan in general. Where do you see the biggest potential for growth from the perspective of Polish businesses and Taiwanese businesses that you're familiar with?
Except UAV, because that is definitely the one that I'm always mentioning. Second one is renewable and green energy. From various of reasons, ones that in Taiwan many solutions and also the green transition is processed now, and Poland and the whole Europe is having a very, very high goals and also challenges in terms of the energy transition. So I think that renewable energy and products and solutions dedicated in this industry will be definitely those who will match our countries in terms of the business. And electronics will be another one, because actually today every industry is based this way or another on electronics, plus automation and robotics, another one. And in terms of semiconductors, the topic always appears with the relation of Taiwan. I think that Poland should and could easily find its place in the semiconductor supply chain, especially concerning the fact that the TSMC Dresden factory will be run very quickly. Maybe we will be not the first choice in terms of the semiconductor manufacturing, but the supply chain and the engineering and the talent pool is definitely something that we can play important role in.
Thank you very much for your time. Agnieszka Sygitowicz, President of the Polish-Taiwanese Chamber of Industry and Commerce.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me today, and have a good day, everyone.
And that's all I have for you in this week's edition of Taiwan Tech Update. Thank you for staying with me, and if you have any ideas or opinions on the show, its format, topics, or just technology in general, you can email them to me at Tomasz, that's TOMASZ, @rti.org.tw. Please include Taiwan Tech Update or TTU in the subject line. I'm your host, Tomasz Koper, and I'll be back with another update next week.